Hey, everybody. So today we have a very special guest. We have my buddy and friend, Gaurav. Now, if you've not heard about him, I highly recommend that you go check him out. Now, Gaurav is the founder of a company called RedLock, and he also is the founder of a company called CloudUp Networks. And both companies had the privilege and the opportunity to get acquired. So I'm very excited to have Gaurav here with us to share his journey of how he accomplished and how he got to where he is. So Gaurav, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Looking forward to the chat.
Good. So let's start all the way from the beginning and let's figure this out. Where are you from and what was your upbringing like?
Sure. So I grew up in a very small town near New Delhi in the 80s and the 90s. Uh, it was really a small town, and during those times in 80s and 90s, um, we were far off from the globalization and things like in the summer we used to have electricity only for 50% of the time. uh, so it was more of a luxury than a need. So those were the times I grew up in, so I do have a lot of appreciation of all the different kind of countries and their economic growth.
Wow. So before we get into the whole entire thing, I want to understand that. You grew up in, so how do you define the smaller things in life now? How do you appreciate them more than general things like, you obviously grew up with electricity only and like a hot shower now. How do you appreciate a hot shower or electricity in your house full time? How do you value them more?
Yeah, a lot more actually. I will give you an example, and this example is as recent as 2 days old. Um, we were on a vacation in Cancun, and we came back home. We opened the door, and we found water all over the floor. So apparently, when we were on vacation, the water heater broke, and it leaked, and it damaged the floor. So for you stayed in hotel for a day or so, um, and it's a big hassle dealing with warranty, insurance, HOA, and whatnot. But at the same time, I realized that, hey, where I'm from, right? Look at that. And moreover, um, look at the damages caused by the campfire in Northern California, where people actually lost their homes, their families. So, with all my upbringing and everything, the impact it had on me was that um, if some things are bad, they could be worse too. So uh, don't get stressed out by the bad times in life, and appreciate what you have.
Right. Wow. Just that is a lesson and a whole entire session for itself. Just appreciate what you have. It says, who's a rich man? A rich man is someone satisfied with what he has. That is a rich man.
Indeed.
Being able to, like you mentioned, being able to appreciate those little things is just incredible. How did you get into entrepreneurship after this upbringing, after coming to the US for the first time 10 years back? You're a kid from India in a small village. From Delhi, how did you come about into entrepreneurship?
I think it came sort of very naturally to me, um, because I always liked building new things with hand. Uh, and it could be anything. It's like small electronics project, mechanical projects, anything which is about creating something new has always been my passion. So I think it just came naturally to me. Um, I like my father actually grew up in an even more remote part of the country in a very different time, and he left his home and he moved to the town where as I mentioned, where we didn't have electricity for half the time in summer. Um, and yeah, so he's a doctor, right? So he started his clinic, and I have seen like all the risks he took in his life. Um, so in some form of fashion, I just like taking the risk and I like building stuff. So I think entrepreneurship is all about taking risks and building stuff.
Right. So then what took the final plunge? Because being a risk, obviously someone take risk and someone that likes to play around with their hands. or build stuff is incredible. But what gave you that final plunge, that conviction, in the sense that let me go ahead and actually try to build a company?
Uh, Nothing really. It just came naturally to me. I was like, I just don't like uh, to be a yet another person. And it's not like I want a lot of fame, name, or I want any highlight on me. Uh, I just, I just don't like doing the things for the sake of them. So I had been trying to do startups even before the CloudUp got acquired. In fact, I would say that at RedLock, it's my fifth attempt actually. Before that, 3 or 4 attempts failed. So it was not just like one thing, it was just more like a series of things, and they sort of accumulated over a period of time, and after a specific point it just happened.
Right. So take me back to your darkest day of entrepreneurship. One of those days that all hell's going, you feel like all hell's breaking loose. That forget about it. I'm done. I'm over with. Take me back to that day.
I think that's a good question. uh, there is not like one worst day. um, each day is worst and the best in its own way. um, so I would say that there were certain days when, in the very early days when we didn't even have funding, my co-founder and I, um, uh, we had challenges raising fund for the company um, uh, because of the time of the market, and we were doing fundraising. I think in the November, I think in the October-November timeframes, things were not very hot, and we only had PowerPoint presentations. So there had been days where we sort of almost gave up on the funding, and we thought, okay, let's just bootstrap it and we'll build it. Then we got the funding. Then there had been very dark days when it came to recruiting people, because sure, now you have money in the bank, but that doesn't mean that you can now just hire anyone, because people who want to join you, they have the same kind of questions that this money is going to last only this long. What are you going to do afterwards? Like, how you going to get the customers? Because uh, entrepreneurship, building something new, has a very inherent risk in it, which is, what if people don't buy it, right? What if you cannot build it? Um, and after you hire people, they are building the product, then you have some really dark days where um, you lose a deal to your competitor. Um, and then you learn why you lost the deal, and then you work around those things, fix the things which are broken. So I would say there's not one specific day, but rather a series of dark days. And the more time you spend doing a startup, the you will find different kind of darkness over a period of time.
So, what message of hope, or how do you build out that emotional resilience in order to overcome these dark days? Because the dark days, like you mentioned, are going to come, we like it or not, they're always going to be there. And they might come over a period of time. They might come, just maybe just have one big bad day, or you might have a bunch of bad days. So, how do you build out that resilience in order to overcome it and to be constantly optimistic about the prospects or about the future?
I think it's a past experience. In the past, I would say that when I had bad days, what happened afterwards? Did Earth stop rotating? No. Sun is still rising from the east. Um, People are living just fine. So it's not the end of the world. Like, if you can't do if fundraising is not a success, your company fails or whatever, right? Life will continue to uh, just happen. Things just move forward. We tend to sort of zoom in into these kind of failures a bit more than I think we should. Um, and I would say that, as I said in the past, I have failed many times, and eventually things just work out in one way or the other. And moreover, I would say that when things are not working out, I just personally am the kind of person who is just too busy fixing things when they are not working out. Uh, so I don't really like seek out any motivational speech from someone to motivate me. I'm just too busy, but um, I do take help. Like, this is one of my greatest learnings, I would say, is that you are not going to be expert in each and everything. So seek professional help from people who have been there, done that, and ask them specific questions to help you out.
Right. So while we're on that topic, I think it's a very interesting topic you brought up. It's not necessarily focused on entrepreneurship, but seeking help and growing as a person.
Uh-huh.
What are some of the key lessons you learned as you journey through entrepreneurship
Yeah.
that helped you become a better version of yourself?
Mhm. That's a good question, actually, because it's a hard question. Hard questions are good questions. uh, Over the period of time, I have actually learned that you get better with time by knowing what not to do rather than just knowing that this is what you need to do. Um, so the better version of me would say that now that I've been through a lot, um, um, I've come to realize that there's always a story behind the story.
Mhm.
So seek beyond what you can perceive, right? Um, I have come to the realize that most people, your employees, friends, family, they are not malicious in nature. They are trying to do a great job. Like, nobody wakes up in the morning and says that I'm gonna do a very bad job today, right? They always want to be good at something. Um, but sometimes there is, as I said, a story behind the story. Maybe they had a bad day, right? They had a fight with their spouse or something, and maybe the water heater broke and they're having a bad day, so they may not be responding the way you think they should.
Mhm.
um, and people are not good with the communication in general. I would say they can be always better.
Mhm.
So they will not really tell you that, hey, I'm having a bad day because of this, and they will just be very annoyed, and they will not give proper answer. They may not be best at. So that's my one of the greatest learning, that seek the story behind the story,
Right.
right? And as I said, things could always be always be worse. So um, give it time. Um, with time, I think things just get better.
Right. Wow. That's such a powerful lesson. It's not to jump to conclusions, seek to understand, look to understand the person, because end of the day, like you said, we're all human beings and we all have a story behind what's going on. So if the guy has a bad day today, not necessarily that he has a bad day, it's he might have gone through something earlier that day. So this is absolutely amazing and incredible. I'm like, I wow. So continue on that journey,
Mhm.
and how do you translate that into entrepreneurship? So you had the privilege to build a world-class company,
Mhm.
and so what are some of the actionable, we'll do it twofold. And then the first thing is, what are some actionable steps that a new company or startup can take to actually implement something in the startup today that can build it out into an amazing company?
Mhm. So I would say that the most important aspect for a company is the people that you have in the company. It's your employees. It's the people that you are surrounded with. So if you are, no matter in like what phase of the company you are in, like you are just starting a new company or you are scaling a company, just make sure that you care about people. So we oftentimes care more about the the problems, the competition, the finances, this and that. But the most important thing for me that, or something that I've learned, is that you need to surround yourself with the kind of people that you can count upon. They are dependable, they are trustable, they are equally motivated or more motivated. People you can look up to, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, that's the most important thing I have learned. Secondly is, as I said, there's a story behind the story. Like customers, when you just be really customer obsessed. Of course, Amazon is like known for that, and I have a lot of respect for Jeff Bezos for being able to create such a kind of a company and a culture. So read between the lines, right? If a customer is angry, there's a reason behind it, and there might be a reason behind the reason. So you really want to get to the bottom of everything. And I think it's one of the one of the leadership principles at Amazon, where they say that uh, do not compromise on your values. Um, uh, think long term, right? The short term gains. Do not favor short term gains in favor of long term value. So yeah, um, keep a good um, sense on where your customers are, how they are using the product, and just have really a plus team. And once you have that, once you have data, and once you have uh, employees who are as motivated as you are, people will find solutions.
So how do you go about building that A plus team? Obviously, it comes down from the leadership and downwards, in downward funnel. And the culture obviously starts from day one. But what are the tips you have in order to build that world class
Yeah,
team?
that's a good question. I would say that it's more about people tend to follow actions more than the words.
Mm-hmm.
And you really want to have the kind of a culture where people have zero egos, and they are willing to get their hands dirty and just get the things done, as opposed to you go to offices and you will find a lot of motivational posters and everything.
Right.
And you will read those posters, and then you might feel like, oh, that's an interesting thought, right? But how many of such uh, quotations you really remember? Like you and I are chatting right now. Do you remember 1 year back, whether you went to an office and you saw something interesting? Do you still recall it? Probably not. So all those, marketing gimmicky kind of a thing, where people come up with this fancy lines, this and that, motivational speeches, they don't really work. I don't think so. However, I'm sure that you will recall a kindness of a random stranger, right? Um, you may not remember his or her name, but you might remember the action, right? So in a startup world, I would say it boils down to, as I said, getting your hands dirty. Um, I'll give you an example where a long time back in the early days of RedLock, um, we did not have enough test data available to write good quality unit test cases. And generating test data is ugly, boring, dirty work. Now the question came, who will do that dirty work, right? Now I could have asked any of the employees, hey, you do it. But at that point of time, I did the work myself because I wanted to set an example that no person is big enough or small enough that this work is beneath them, right? Um, and that's the kind of culture you want to have. And you build that culture not by having motivational posters in the office, but by leading by example.
Mm-hmm. Right. Wow, 100%. So everything you said is the total way to do it. It's not about having that fancy ping pong table or the free beer. That's not culture. I believe that culture, just like you go to the doctor to test your temperature, you should constantly be able to tap into the culture of your company to be able to test it on a constant basis.
Yeah. It's not something that you can spend a lot of money on and just fix it, right? And it takes a time to build a culture, right? And it also takes time to Detroit a culture, right? And these are really the everlasting, the long-lasting things. So there's a lot of talk these days about culture and everything, but um, I think people should give even more attention to it than it currently has.
Culture is the most important thing, he said. Back to the RedLock days, for example. I'm assuming, if a company is going through a bad time, but the people really believe in the mission, they believe they're happy to come to work, they would stay and go through that bad time together with everyone else because they felt that sense of, there's a culture built around it of the sense of unity and everyone together in this.
Yeah.
So after having built a world-class company and, you sold RedLock for $173 million cash, right? You only raised $12 million.
Yes.
I mean, that's like a phenomenal spread. Now, what are the thoughts that after this whole entire, take me back to that the emotional reaction you had after, building it for 3 years and all of a sudden you get this offer from Palo Alto Networks to acquire you. What's going through your head?
A lot and nothing. So let me explain what I mean by that. A lot was going because a lot of things were to change in the sense like, okay, we'll get acquired, we will move to um, a nice big office, we'll have ample resources to scale the product that we were building, we'll have a larger team, um, and there's obviously the financial aspect of it, right? So that was one dimension, and the other dimension was, hey, we are building a product, right? The acquisition has not really happened. This is an offer on the table. So for us, it didn't really mean anything in that way because we were more than 100% focused on delivering solutions to our customers, making them happy, making sure employees are happy, and so in some way it meant a lot, and in some ways it meant nothing.
Wow. So how would you explain the difference? I mean, you sold the company before, CloudUp. Was it selling RedLock? Was it different? Like, did you feel like this is your baby you're letting go over here? Was it a different type of reaction from your first first startup?
Yes, because the scale is very different, right? Here at RedLock, we were about 75, 80 employees. So at CloudUp, we were a very small team of few people. So the scale is very different. Also, there is a angle of a remote team. Like India had a significant presence in India. So the complexity of acquisition and the scale was very different. I won't say it was overwhelming. I think it was pretty expected for the kind of acquisition that we had offered for. So,
wow. So tell me, how would you compare the startup ecosystem between Silicon Valley and India? Now, I know you're not actively involved in the Indian ecosystem, but you had an office there. I'm sure you've been there quite a few times. You're originally from there, and you have friends there. How would you compare the two?
Mm-hmm. I would say that it has changed a lot. Like 10 years back, India was considered more like a pure outsourcing, low-cost destination. But these days, it's no longer the case. The ecosystem is very vibrant. There's funding available, there's a talent available, and there's a demand, right? And the thing which ties all of this together is really the internet, which is making the information much more accessible.
Right.
So as I think about it, I would say that if you think about it, the total amount of information available in the world is more or less available to everyone, right? Internet is internet, whether it's in India or it's here in US. Um, Internet makes it accessible, and I would say that my experience is that quality of internet is actually better in India than in US. In US is just 2-3 companies. In India is like tons of companies. On mobile you get like 4 or 5 GB of data per day, super fast speeds.
Oh wow.
So I would say that India has evolved quite a bit. And in fact, the reason that we uh, had India office was not about the cost. It was about having access to the talent pool. Hiring here in US had been very challenging for us for various reasons, right? In Silicon Valley, you are competing against the likes of Google and Facebook. In India, you don't, right? And also there are a lot of immigration challenges these days. So for us, it was a strategic decision, and the finances did not play as much of an importance as they would have like 10 years back. So that's a fundamental change that I have seen in the last 1 year.
Wow. So let's say a new entrepreneur comes to you and says, hey, Gaurav, I'm looking to build a startup. I have this idea. Or a new entrepreneur that already started, building out a company, a new startup. What message or what advice do you go ahead and tell them?
Couple of them. The first and the most important is don't worry too much about the idea and the technology and all. That's all secondary. It's all about your early team. It's about the co-founder you want to have. It's about what kind of people you will be hiring. So focus more on that. There are very good chances that as you build a product and you go to the customers, the product will evolve, the technology will evolve, the architecture will evolve. All of these things will change over a period of time. But that's not important. In my experience, in the past, I think one of the reasons that I failed was because I focused too much about the idea. Like I used to think that I have a great solution to this problem. This is a great technology, and I'm going to patent it, and then nobody else can build it, and then I will be selling it. But building a product and selling it to customers and scaling the product, building a company around it, having a culture, all those things are very different than writing code to solve a problem. Mm-hmm. So that's my first advice, that worry more about the people than the technology or the idea. The second thing I would say is that, as I said before also, like remain humble. If you are a first-time entrepreneur, chances are you are already humble. But if it is your second or third time and you have had success, success is very hard to repeat. One of our VCs, Deepak, used to say this quite often, which is failure is very is very easy to repeat, but success is not, right? I don't know who said it, but I think maybe it was Bill Gates, which was in other words, which is success is a very lousy teacher, right? So remember that, to remain humble, and yeah, on a very practical side, I would say that do not compromise on your health. Building a startup, it's a lot of work. You're gonna have sleepless nights and everything, but not it won't matter if you don't have a good health to enjoy the fruits of a successful outcome of a startup.
100%. Usually that's always the first thing to go, our health, right after I'm building it. You get overweight, you don't eat properly, lose too much weight and anything. So it's very important. tell me about who are some of the people that have made a difference in your life?
Mhm. Um, I would say different people for different kind of reasons. I will start by my father. Like I have seen the kind of risk he took. To my mother, how she managed with the limited finances, the whole household. My brother, and so family is like one set of people I look forward to for different kind of reasons. And then in tech industry, I look for people like Jeff Bezos for building a very customer centric culture. I would say Steve Jobs for being very product centric, how you build a very simple to use product, which is very hard problem to solve, right? um, and then um, even like turnaround guys like Satya Nadella at Microsoft has really turned around the company, right? It used to be irrelevant, it was becoming irrelevant company, and then he turned around. So yeah, these are the kind of people I look forward to for different kind of reasons. There's not like one specific person. Like Elon Musk, I look forward to him for his vision, right? And he's very resilient. He's fighting a lot of battles, right? So yeah, I would say different people for different reasons.
Wow. Well, it's incredible. Having mentors for specific issues or in general, this whole generalization type of thing is definitely a way to go about it. So, what are some of the books that you recommend to others or books that have influenced your way of thinking?
Mhm. So I read a lot of non-fiction and some fiction. So anything which is related to understanding human behavior and psychology, um, and even mortality. It's a very humble experience. Uh, so I would say that books like Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, Predictably Rational by Dan, Undoing Project, these are all very uh, psychology, human behavior centric books.
Right.
When it comes to mortality, I would say books like When Breath Becomes Air, The Last Lecture. Uh, these are the kind of books I would recommend to really make yourself feel humble.
Right. I definitely want to get your reading book list. It sounds like incredible. Sounds like there's so much more to it. So I have to get it.
Sure, happy to share.
So, what message would we tell a younger Gaurav, coming out of India, coming to the US, starting the journey all over? What message do we tell your younger self, looking at either the startup world or the world in general for the first time?
Oh, well, I would say focus more on EQ than IQ, which is, as a geek, as a very techie guy, it's very easy to get attracted to solving hard problems, writing code, and all those kind of things. So I was very naturally very inclined to reading all of the technology related books and other stuff. Um, but I think what's equally important, and I would say maybe more important, is building the EQ, the emotional quotient, right? Um, it's about learning how you work with different people, with difficult people, how you manage yourself when you are going through stressful times, right? Uh, so it's really the soft skills, right? And soft skills don't really come naturally to people who are techie, right? So I would say that's one thing that I would definitely tell myself. It took me a while, before I really started valuing the soft skills, the communication skills. And yeah, I mean, I think my younger self has been through a lot. So I think the younger self, or the other way it would tell me is that just stay humble. If it is bad, it could be worse.
Right. Like you never know what someone else, like back to what you were saying before, and we can never compare ourselves with someone else. Someone that has, less than us, we have to feel like we're blessed because we have more. And vice versa, someone has more than us, we have to be appreciative of that fact too. And realize, okay, we have aspirations to look up to, but not be jealous. So it works, both ways.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Wow, but Gaurav, first of all, this has been phenomenal. I have learned a tremendous amount in our short conversation right now of, about you, about RedLocks, about what it takes to be a phenomenal world-class entrepreneur and build a world-class company.
Thank you so much.
And this has been absolutely incredible. I've learned a tremendous amount, and I want to thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for all the lessons you have given us.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I wish that there are more people like you who take time from their day-to-day life, and they want to do good for others, right? So really appreciate you taking time.
Sure. And it goes without saying, is there anything I could do for you or your family? I mean, RedLocks is sold now, so I'm sure Palo Alto Networks will do a good job. But on your next startup, feel free to always reach out and everything.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.